Don't let her pretty smile or the charm fool you. Courtney will mess you up. Hey guys, my name's Luke Sartor. I have another interview for you today for my Immortals project, and I'm joined by Courtney Eardley. Courtney fought at top level Taekwondo, representing the UK at the World Championships, and she gave us an insight as to what it's like to fight at the top level, dieting and making weight, especially for women, and what they can do to your body, and what she's working on now in regards to traveling between Australia and Thailand and teaching Taekwondo remotely. This was a great interview, and Courtney and I made some really cool images. I think these are some of my favorite for my project, and I hope you guys enjoy this. And here's my interview with Courtney Eardley. So, Courtney, why do you do what you do, man?
Oh God, why do I do what I do? Because I love it. It makes me who I am. And if I'm being honest, I do feel like it's been a part of me since I was about 8 years old. So it's grown into you kind of thing. You know, it's habit, but obviously you'll know if you love something, you aren't going to give it up. So I've continued to do it for 17 years. And it brings me happiness, it brings me joy, and I want to share that with other people. So
You've loved doing it. When did you start? Like, how long have you been doing this? When did you start it?
So basically when I was a baby, I'm born in South Africa. My parents moved to the UK when I was really, really young, and we didn't know anyone there. And the only family we did know were starting up a Taekwondo club, and they were like, hey, get your kids in for free, just try it out and see if they enjoy it. And I think we both just fell in love since, you know, I started when I was 8 years old, and then just been doing it ever since. Originally started in kickboxing, and then we kind of, like, my dad saw potential, so he took me out of kickboxing to put me into the Olympic style of Taekwondo, moved clubs, and then it all just kicked off from there.
So, like, was the original intention, like, once you got your dad saw you had potential and then you knew you're, like, starting to kick some ass, I want to compete? Or, like, is that just a natural thing? Like, you sort of got to a level and then your coaches are like, wait, come on, let's go.
I think it was my dad that kind of did that. So when I was doing kickboxing, I still traveled the world to compete, but it was in ITF Taekwondo. So I did more traditional patterns, group patterns and all that stuff. I did point sparring. So point sparring is like when you score a point, they stop you and you come back to the middle. And I thought that was great. But then it got to a point when my dad was like, you could really do something with this. When you're younger, you don't really understand that. So he was like, oh, let's try her in this club. And as soon as I walked into that club and I showed, like, I just did the class, the actual coach there, who is the junior head coach for Great Britain, was like, we're gonna get someone in, they're gonna look at her and we're gonna get her into the junior squad. When I started there, they'd just done their selections for the juniors, like, I'm not even joking, like a week and a half before. And he was like, nah, called this lady. She came down and she was like, you need to come and see her. And then within a week, I got a call being like, she's accepted into the Great Britain junior squad. And then from that point, it was like, the eyes are on you when you're in that squad, obviously as a development pathway to the senior team, which is like 10 to 15 females in there. So.
Holy, forgive my ignorance. Explain the different styles of Taekwondo. Like, because you're saying there's the ones where they pull you apart straight away, and then there's Olympic Taekwondo. Like,
okay. So ITF Taekwondo is more traditional, and it's more point sparring, kickboxing style. WTF is what you see in the Olympics. So the chest guards, it's continuous. So you do the 3 rounds, you have your breaks in the middle. Whereas what I was doing before, it was much shorter, and the point sparring would be, you score a point, you move back, you start again. You score a point, a little bit like karate. But yeah, so what I do now is what you see in the Olympics. So that's the difference, basically.
And
it's not much in it.
When you change to the Olympic style and into this, like, higher caliber, what were, like, some of the big differences you noticed when you're, like, sparring with these, like, top level chicks? And, like, it went from, like, sort of this is fun, like, I'm pretty good at this, to, like, holy.
Well, I had a lot of black eyes.
Yeah.
Like, no joke, because I'm used to 1 point. So I go in there with intent to score, and then you separate and you come back.
You'd already built that like memory to like, oh, I'm done now.
Yeah, but done. But as soon as you do that, and I used to call it switching off. As soon as you switch off, you've taken a hit. Like, no joke, I would have a different black eye every week, and my mum was just, she hated it, but like I'd have black eye there, like my cheekbone would be out here, my lip would be, until I learned how to, the continuous is like, all right, so you haven't got one kick coming at you, you've got 10. Like, they're not going to stop until they score that point. So it's being switched on all the time, and fitness levels, like, you had to step that up. It's very easy to kick, put your foot down, go back. This was like 3 minutes, solid, fighting, kicks. Yeah, that was hard.
Is kicking your thing? Like, is it because Taekwondo is very kick intensive, yeah?
It is. It's literally 99% kicks. You can punch, but it's very difficult to score the punch. And they're not censored. So you have sensors in your socks, and you have sensors on your chest guard, and you have to kick at a certain threshold.
So it can't just be a tap. It needs to
it
like
can't.
land.
Yeah, so it's all censored. So the computer will register if you've kicked hard enough to score. So you would have to kick your opponent way harder than I would, but it's relative to your body weight, your category. And with the punches, it's just you have a glove. It's very thin. So for you to score that, it's the corner judges that have to tap. So you really have to like go in for it. But yeah, you can't. But to go back to your question, kicks is definitely my thing.
Yeah.
I would say I'm a front leg control fighter. Like,
I was gonna say, so like, what's your favorite kick? But then what's your most successful kick?
They're both the same kick.
Okay.
So a side kick, and reason being is a side kick you can use as offense, defense, anything coming at you, whether it's a spin, a punch, another kick, you can counter it with a side kick. Not only can you use the side kick to counter other kicks, if you land it, you score 2 points. And if you're good at it, you can actually knock them over. Essentially, in Taekwondo, obviously you're kicking, you can be on one leg a lot of the time. So if you can kick them when they're on one leg well, they're going to be on their ass, and then you get an extra point.
So you can double up on your points because you land the kick and on the ground.
So they would get a foul.
What was some of the biggest blows and like injuries you've taken from it? Because like you're saying, black eyes and stuff, like.
Touch wood. Haven't had that many injuries from Taekwondo. Definitely a lot of bruising. I tore my ATFL, and also fractured and dislocated my finger, but that's it. And that was my fault because I wasn't wearing gloves. Yeah, so it just kicked, and I was like, ooh.
Burnt.
Yeah, it was literally 90 degrees, and I was like, hey, coach, that's probably not supposed to look like that. And he's like, this is why you wear your gloves. And I was like, wow.
Don't yell at me.
Yeah, but that was bad timing. I did that, and we were meant to fight in Greece. So I ended up going to Greece, but I had a big pot on my arm because I had like metal through the finger. It wasn't just a dislocation,
So you couldn't fight, you just had to watch everyone else.
So I went on this nice holiday to Greece and couldn't fight, but I was supporting the team, so happy about that.
When you were fighting at the top level, what was the pinnacle for you? And then for two things, pinnacle as in success-wise, as in like what's the biggest competition you won? But then what was like pinnacle like personally, as in this is where I wanted to be?
Okay, so when you reach like the level that I did, so you fight for Great Britain, you're fighting for your country, you travel with them, they will, select you for competitions. Some competitions you have to qualify for, and also be selected. So World Championships in 2017 was, I'll strip it back. So when you compete in Taekwondo, you have grades of competitions. So you've got G1, which could be down the Gold Coast. You've got G2, could be like Sunshine Coast. All these give you certain ranking points. So you've got G1, G2. Then you could go to G4, G6, G10, G12. So G10 is your World Championships and your European Games. G12 is the Olympics. You can't get much higher. So G10 is World Championships. So that's, for me, was like, if I'm here, you're there.
Yeah.
Because everyone you fight in your category is
Also there.
there. So that for me was like, once getting selected for that, I was like, wow, like I'm literally one step away from the Olympics.
Yeah.
And so World Championships in Muju would be like my top success, but going even further, I made it to the round of 16 against someone who has won Olympic medals. A little bit bittersweet. So you have 3 rounds. If you don't score within those 3 rounds, it gets taken to golden point. So the first person to score wins. So not
Holy.
only did I was nobody at this point. I was like ranked here. This person's like known. And not only did I not concede for 3 rounds, which everyone else obviously before that got wiped, she held my leg and kicked underneath. So she registered hers, but that's illegal. And she was from Korea and I was in Korea. So it's bittersweet, you know, she won and I'm like, I'm over it, but also it's on camera and what she did should have been a foul. But what that gave me was like, I have been training like not long, like I'm already at this level. She's been training for years. She's been on that podium. Imagine where I could be. You know, essentially in my head, I was like, I beat her.
Yeah.
In my mind, I beat her. On, you know, in the actual competition, I didn't. But I was like, but I can.
Yeah.
I've just proven that I can. So that for me, I'll never forget that day. Very bittersweet. I remember her holding and cutting. I can tell you the exact kick, which leg, which arm.
I can imagine playing that just over and over and over.
It was awful. I was like, no, and I'm like trying to like get, but you can't replay that. Like it's not. Yeah, it was bittersweet, but it just proved I was like, I can do that. Like, if I'm already here, so.
Holy man, that's nuts. What's something you're working on at the moment that excites you?
Ooh. Okay, so I'm no longer actively competing. I'm still training and coaching, but I think Taekwondo will just be a part of me for the rest of my life. And I would like to share what I've learned and also show people, doesn't matter like what level they're at, they can do it too. You just need the right coach to show you. So something I'm working on now is being able to provide that to just the general population that maybe they think I'm too old to start some sort of martial arts. Oh, I can't touch my toes, so I'm never going to be able to kick like you can kick. Like, take all that away. Like, if you've got an interest in something, I want to be able to help and, like, allow them to just try something new. So doing kick analysis for people that are maybe already in martial arts that want some help, like some classes, some online seminars and retreats. So just kind of sharing my passion with other people that share the same passion.
That's awesome. That like leads into one of the questions I asked. Like, okay, for someone that wants to start Taekwondo casually, what advice do you give to them?
Is just go for it. Do some research into your area. Never sign up to a gym until you've been in the gym. It might look great on social media now, but coaches are everything. You have to have a good coach, facilities. Just go, ask questions, try out a class, and don't compare yourself to anyone else, because you're going in there as a white belt, or you might be going in there with a little bit of knowledge, but it doesn't matter. Like, just one thing I've learned is everyone's really supportive in the martial arts community. Everyone started as a white belt, so there's a lot of respect. So go in there and just give it a crack. If you don't like it, you don't like it, but you'll never know if you don't do it.
And then if for someone that maybe has been training for a little while, or even hasn't been training for a little while, but like realistically, what would you say to someone that wants to compete at the highest level?
So someone that wants to compete at the highest level,
like they see where you were and they go, I want to be there.
It's going to take time, commitment, dedication, and sacrifice. So if someone is wanting to get to representing their country, they have to look at it as a holistic approach. It's not just, oh, I'm going to train every day. It's more than that. It's, you won't be able to see your friends as much. You can't eat what you want to eat. So dieting is like massive. Yeah, it's a lot of sacrifice and it's a lot of actually like putting the effort in. Some days you'd go there and you'd be like, I really do not want to train, but you have to train. Like that's what makes you like so much better than a different athlete, is that like real dedication. If you don't love it and you don't have the passion in it, it's going to be tough.
Remind me, how many years did it take for you to compete at the highest level? To reach number 10? So
the G10 for a world championship. So I did Taekwondo for a long time. So since I was 8 up until about 16, 17. As soon as I got into the junior squad, I was 17. And technically, I could fight in juniors and seniors because the date of that year, my birth date, meant that you can fight in seniors when you're 17 if you're turning 18 that year, if that makes sense. So essentially, as soon as I was 17, I was fighting juniors, seniors. And then from that point, I would say it took me 2 years to medal, to even stand on any podium. And that was bronze. Bronze, so 2 years to even like...
Second loser.
Yeah, exactly. I would go into these competitions, I would get beaten up in the first round and I would go home. And I'd repeat that multiple times for 2 years. And then from that point, it just started clicking, became bronze, then silver. But it's going to take years.
That's really good. You're saying that you lost a lot. I know like bronze is still insane at that level.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people would say, oh, I only got bronze and sort of give up after the first or the second one.
You can't do that.
But
yeah. The things that I think helped me was one, my coach now I'm still in contact with. He was my best friend and he still will be. Having trust in your coach in a competition is massive. And having the belief that you can do it yourself. If you go in there thinking, she's been to the Olympics, there's no way I'm going to beat her, you're already doubting yourself. Like you really have to be almost cocky in your ability.
You've lost before you've even entered the ring.
You've lost before you've been bowed in. So it will take years. I'm talking like 5 years. You know what I mean? Like minimum. From scratch. If you've got some sort of experience, then that's hard to say. But you know, it really depends on the fighter and how they can adapt to Taekwondo because it changes it all the time.
Before we go into venturing into the other styles that you've been playing with, we talked about off camera about the dieting side of Taekwondo. Oh, tell me more about that. Because like this is really real, especially not only for men, but for women, it can be like drastic problems later down the road and all this kind of thing. So just elaborate for us, please.
Okay. So I am 5'8", and that's quite tall in Taekwondo. Obviously, you want that leg reach. But I was taken in as a minus 49 kilogram. For anyone that doesn't know, that is like what you weigh in primary school, like start of high school, like when you're a teenager. And the first couple of competitions to make 49 was kind of easy. I wouldn't say easy, that's a lie. It was much easier than later down the line. But that meant dieting for months. That meant literally saunas, like not eating carbohydrates, dehydrating yourself. Not just like 48 hours. I'm talking like, starvation. I would eat 1 sweet a day, like if I was craving. I wasn't allowed to eat 2 apples a day because it had too many carbohydrates in. And that started to take its toll when I started going back-to-back competitions where your body's naturally going to gain the weight. So you'd go 49, you'd compete, 49, compete. My body started kind of giving in. So I actually gained body fat. Because your body actually thinks you're going into starvation mode and it holds on to anything that you put in your mouth. It was like, you're not going to eat again. I'm holding this. I'm storing it as fat. You need it to survive. I'm not saying I got obese, but my weight started to naturally just increase even though I was eating less. And at one point I became very worried and I would talk to my nutritionist. And yeah, I was pretty much borderline anorexic, definitely had eating disorders. And it's unavoidable. It's hard to...
To put it into context, how much do you weigh now?
Oh, I weigh 62 kilos.
And like, you're a slim, fit, healthy chick.
Yeah.
So
I'm
an
like
extra like 62. So what, would you say 41?
49.
49, yeah.
Yeah.
10, 12
more than
kilos
10, yeah.
down.
Exactly. Where is it going to
Skin
come
and
off
bone.
from? Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have pictures like that I look back on and I think, oh my God, like no wonder my mum was so upset. But it was a job. I literally got paid to step on those scales. So to not make that weight was a failure.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a failure to me, it was a failure to my team. If you're the one, sometimes, so for the World Championships, there's only one person per category for your country. So I went in there as Great Britain's 49, that was it. There was no backup, there was no... So for me to not make that was like, that was non-negotiable. And it can happen in men, but they used to call it REDS. So it's relative energy disorder. But now so basically it's like low bone density, amenorrhea. So a lot of women don't have periods and TMI, but like I still haven't had a regular period for 5 years now.
Well, like that's a really good point. Like those first two things, like low bone density and losing a period, like your body does that when you're starving.
Yeah.
Like, so it gets rid of the non-important things and sucks calcium out of your bones.
Yeah.
And then I think you would probably find it a lot of athletes at the top level, like not just Taekwondo, but in other sports, women, that the long-term effects, like hormonal effects of that can be massive.
Especially hormonal.
Yep.
I actually, when I was studying university, I did what you would call a thesis or a dissertation on weight making sports. And it's not Taekwondo, it's boxing, it's jockeys, it's gymnastics. And the ways that people make weight is scary, and I wish like there was more information on it. But yeah, amenorrhea, definitely, like I haven't had a regular cycle. My hormones have not been regular and I'm still struggling with that for a minimum 5 years.
Because how old are you now?
25.
Yeah, so it should be good.
It should be fine, you know. When I say fine, it should be normal. But I'm literally struggling very much with hormonal imbalances, and Jamie will know. But yeah. So it's pretty scary. The dieting doesn't just affect you there and then. Years down the line, you still might be struggling with something.
Thanks. Like, it's really good you're able to speak about that so like just candidly, because I know a lot of chicks either are scared to talk about it or don't understand the serious implications of either competing at the highest level or any sport that requires you to drop weight. Like you see a lot in bodybuilders, especially women, they can give themselves humongous thyroid problems and hormonal problems because of how lean that they get. So that was awesome that you can share that. On a lighter note, what are you learning now? Because like you're not just doing Taekwondo. What other martial arts are you doing?
So after visiting Thailand at Bang Tao Muay Thai MMA, I started jumping into like their Muay Thai lessons, their BJJ, some of their kickboxing classes, which I love kickboxing anyway. But I've actually fallen in love with, I'd say, jiu-jitsu.
Everyone says that, hey, like, it just looks like a bunch of men just like rolling on each other. But you talk to anyone that does it and they froth it.
It's so good. Like, it's like chess.
Yeah.
It's a mind game. And I think that's what I really liked about Taekwondo as well is, you know, it's always that, if your opponent does this, how can you counter that? But if I do this, I'm putting them in so it really does, like, a lot of smart people and business owners, if you ask them if they're into sport, you'll find that a lot of them actually do jiu-jitsu. It's a very, like, intelligent sport. And I think once you get into it, it's kind of fun, you know? Like, I would definitely recommend jiu-jitsu to anyone. Yeah. Yeah.
So of the ones that you started, that's your new fave?
I think so, yeah. I do like MMA.
I was going to say, do you ever think about bringing those, like, because when you do start doing any kind of like UFC or MMA style thing, like if all you can do is kick or punch, you're going to get rolled as soon as anything happens on the floor.
Yeah.
Now that you're bringing that other discipline in, would you start fighting again in MMA?
Personally, I don't know. I think I think right now with the experience, no. I think maybe if later down the line I would, but I also promised my mum I would never step into a cage. So I feel like I don't know what she doesn't know won't hurt her, or if I can convince her, but for now, probably not. I would definitely compete in jiu-jitsu, and I am actually looking at maybe grading in some belts as well. I just think, why not?
Yeah.
You know?
Especially when you have like such unreal teachers over there.
Yeah.
It'd be...
Oh, incredible. Yeah. So I might as well start getting some black belts in other sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Add that to your resume.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges with the new styles, like trying to transition?
Oh.
Like especially going from something that's so points oriented and that to is very, very different down there.
I would say changing the rules. A lot of the time in Taekwondo, what you can do, you can't. Well, you can do it, but in MMA, a lot of the stuff you can do in MMA, you can't do in Taekwondo. For example, you can't hold on to anyone in Taekwondo. MMA, you can do what you want. You can't block with your leg in Taekwondo. You can't kick below the belt in Taekwondo. You can't go in with like multiple punches in Taekwondo, whereas MMA is pretty much all is go. You know, no groin shots, obviously, but back of the head. Taekwondo, you can flick them in the back of the head. You can't do anything in really to the back of the head in MMA. So it's just changing those rules. And I've had 17 years of habits that obviously in a situation where you panic, your brain goes habit.
Yeah.
You know,
Muscle memory,
comfort
do
mode.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I panic, you'll see me put my right leg in front. It's just I'm behind my leg. Whereas a lot of the times I'll be left leg in front, I'll be southpaw or orthodox. Yeah. So very different.
That leads into a question that you hear people say is like, well, Taekwondo doesn't work on the street.
Oh, God.
What do you say to people like that? It's like, it's not meant for that.
So, to these people, if they do a bit of research into Taekwondo itself, Taekwondo literally means the art of the hand and the foot. That is like the translation. And as a white belt, to get to your black belt, the first things you learn are self-defense. What I show on my social media, what I do, what people do in the Olympics is not self-defense. That is a sport. It is a point scoring sport. Like you go in there and you do what works to score your points and to win the match. A lot of the times there's other techniques and there are techniques and other self-defense moves that you would do in those situations on the street. You wouldn't allow someone to come up to you and you start flicking them in the head. Like none of that. It's more grabs, it's more knife defense. It's, you know, yeah, it frustrates me when people say that because if you just, as they say, oh, you'd never do that. Yeah, I would never do that, you know, and I'm experienced. So if someone comes up to you with a knife, I'm not going to twist kick the knife out of their hand like it's not a movie. And so many comments are like, oh, you think you're some sort of superhero? And I'm like, no one's going to do that in real life.
Yeah.
First of all, when I teach self-defense, hands open, show them you're not ready for a fight. Second thing, if you can run and you can yell, do it and get out of there. I don't even tell them to touch the other person in that situation.
It's the last resort rather than
The
the
last
first.
resort is having that actual physical conflict. I tell girls to scream, run. I went to South Africa for 7 weeks to teach self-defense to an all-girls school. And I tell you what, I didn't teach them anything that I do in Olympic Taekwondo.
Yeah. Did anyone think like, oh yeah, we're gonna learn how to put someone in a chokehold and kick in the back of the head?
I'm gonna do some spinning kick. No, none of that. Like
No.
it's how to disarm them if they've got a knife, how to get out of a bear hold, how to, you know, what to do in that situation. Yeah.
What would you tell your younger self?
I think for my younger self, I would say make sure you're surrounded by the right people, the people that have your best interests at heart. And don't be afraid to stand up for yourself and ask questions. So something that I never did is, you know your body better than anyone else. Like it's your body, you feel it. And when I was making that weight at one point, I'm thinking, I can't do this. I went to my nutritionist and I said, hey, I know I'm not going to make weight. I can feel it. Like, what can we do? He's like, no, trust the process. And he was amazing. He backed me up the whole time. And I failed weight. And that wasn't me being negative. I was like, I literally know, I can feel it. I'm not dropping. I'm not shifting this weight. It's just becoming harder and harder. And I never stood up for myself in the meeting that I got when I got released to say, I told you this. No one was listening. So being able to stand up for yourself, having those people around you to support you because it is tough, you will sacrifice a lot, and just having that like network around you to be like, days are going to be hard, but you can do it. And just understanding that it's a lifestyle change. It's not just, I'm going to do this sport and I'm going to have the rest of my life. It's going to be all normal. It's a whole lifestyle change. Yeah.
Awesome. Finally, so we know that you're Taekwondo top level athlete and successful in your own business, but there's a reason that you're successful at these things. So I want you to introduce yourself by your beliefs rather than what you do on the outside.
Okay. Well, my name is Courtney Eardley. I'm 25 and I truly believe in following your dreams, exploring your passions, and just doing it with the big smile on your face. Do what makes you happy.
Awesome, man. That was great. Yeah, no, I killed it. Sick.
That's literally was my Instagram bio for so long. I was like, shit.
Easy, had it sorted.
Yeah, I was
Nice.
like, fuck, do what makes you happy, eh? Don't let anyone question you. Just do it.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. If there's someone that you know will get value from this interview, make sure you send it out to them. Give Courtney a follow and check out my other videos that I've done for my project. We're 20% of the way through, 20 athletes. I'm so stoked, and I'm really proud of some of the images I've been able to produce and the people that I've been able to meet. We got 80 left, and yeah, I'm really excited to see the kind of athletes I can interview and the images we can create together, and hope you guys really enjoy what I'm doing, and I'll see you on the next time. Cheers.